хорошо.
Всем привет, друзья! Меня зовут Сильван, с вами канал Sylvan Game, и сегодня мы продолжаем играть в игру под названием Stanley Parable Ultimate Edition.
Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand.
Даже не
It was only a
Ultimate,
matter of time before he found the others, wherever they
Ультра
were.
Deluxe.
Just a matter of time.
А что происходит-то? Мы вчера концовку не доиграли? Интересно. Видимо, да.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door
Так,
on his
давайте
left.
посмотрим вначале, чего у нас осталось. У нас осталось из обычных ничего. Ведро мы не взяли. Ну давайте, ладно. Раз все завалено этими коробками. Пойдем посмотрим.
Yet there was not a single
Да,
person
да,
here
да.
either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his
Ну тут
boss's
не будет
office.
уже ничего, да? Ничего специфичного.
Here's the door, just go.
Спасибо. Так, а можно как-то вот... Заново я начну и возьму ведро.
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all. The good old bucket.
Так,
Just
ведерко.
Stanley and the bucket.
Что мы с
Off on
ведерком не
another thrilling
проходили?
adventure together.
Так, в подсобке с ведерком мы были. Мы не делали... Обратный отсчет с ведерком мы не делали. Мы вчера делали обычный обратный отсчет, где все взрывается к ебеням. А сейчас мы попробуем с ведерком это сделать. Посмотрим, что получится. Может, мы спрячемся в ведерко и как Индиана Джонс в холодильнике такие улетим куда-нибудь. Почему бы и нет? Ведерко-то способное.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by... But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Поехали. Поехали вниз. А можно, кстати говоря, с ведром покататься на лифте. Мы же там какую-то концовку недополучили. Будто бы. А будто бы получили. Ладно, давайте концовки, которые не трогали, получим.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Да. Так, а падать вниз. Кстати. Ну ладно, потом. Давайте кнопку.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible
далеко
secret did
больше
this
не
place
ходить.
hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Посмотрим, что ведерко тут даст нам. Мы уже с этим ведерком и Махачу устраивали.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office
Фильм
was
ужасов
being
какой-то с ним был.
videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything
Искорешались
like
мы с
this,
ним.
and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley
Чё мы с ним
cradled it
еще не
gently,
делали?
reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
Пойдем.
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
Да, он не доверял никому, кроме ведра, звучит как крылатое выражение какое-то.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again.
Так, ну это орел какой-то. А это... Не знаю. Не бликовало бы, было бы удобнее смотреть. Ну, наверное, вот это больше чайка. Попугай.
Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
О, гусь. Гусь — это штука опасная.
Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others,
Так,
wherever they
хорошо.
were. Just a matter of time.
Хорошо. Обратный отсчет мы сделали. Дальше у нас... Дальше у нас... Давайте попробуем не дойти до кабинета
Where
босса.
are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his
Да-да-да.
left.
Вот помните, мы вошли в офис и сразу вышли. Я еще подумал, что
Still no one was
сломал
here.
игру, но, как
Stanley
обычно,
needed
все
the bucket's
продумано
warmth and
оказалось.
comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find her. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Да. Вот, и здесь как-то вот... Как-то... Ну давай. Да я знаю, что ты можешь. О!
Stepping in.
Во! Сработало. Так, и мы возвращаемся назад. В прошлый раз там какая-то капсула спасательная была, на которой все сломалось. А что будет сейчас? На самом деле, вот эта игра, она одновременно забавная, она одновременно интересная и в то же время криповая. Потому что ты идешь по этим коридорам, которые очень похожи один на другой. Идешь, и каждый раз вот ловишь себя на мысли, там, кто смотрел фильм 14:08, тот понимает, к чему я веду. Вот, что если будет достаточно такое очень похожее помещение, по которому можно очень долго идти, то это будет жутковато. Вот, ну, стать просто заложником одной комнаты. И по сути эта игра ведь это и делает. Ты заложник одного офиса. Ты ходишь по этим коридорам туда-сюда, обратно. И отсюда нет выхода, только перезапуск. Здесь куча разных историй, куча разных возможностей, чего можно сделать в этом офисе. При том, что ты можешь только тыкать пальцами на кнопки. И при этом какие-то просто дикие сюжеты. Дикие, местами интересные, местами такие просто ржачные. И это интересно всегда. Другие игры посмотришь, и ты в принципе знаешь, что за сюжет будет дальше, что произойдет через один шаг, через два, через три. Тут ты в душе не ебешь, что будет дальше. Так, ну дошел. Спасайся, друг. Засосись еще с ведром. Пальчиком гладит. В него мусор вон складывали. Спасли ведро. От чего непонятно, но, видимо, от того, чтобы в него грязную воду наливали, чтобы полы мыть. Хорошо. Это прекрасно, это замечательно. Давайте в музей сходим. А что будет, если с ведром в музей пойти?
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Мы типа все выкинули ведро из игры? Я так не играю.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Понял.
And try not to lose this one too, you dolt.
Чё обзываешься ты? Рот. Наоборот. Пойдем. Пойдем в музей.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest.
Да, вошел, прям вошел. Прям с ноги вошел.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was coming to a staircase. Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Так. Здесь надо... А, все, вспомнил где.
His manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, if not for the soothing presence of the bucket.
4, 5.
Even now, in his darkest of hours, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes. This is certainly the most logical explanation.
Давайте. Поехали вниз. И посмотрим, что в музее поменяется. По идее, там обстановка меняться не должна. Там все так же обстановка по кайфу должна быть. Но как-то же ведро должно повлиять.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
Что поделать, таков путь.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death.
Да ладно,
for
там
each of them.
моментально сплюскивает тебя. Какая мучительная смерть. Плюх. А что-то типа монолога будет? Так.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
Что происходит?
It was a shame, the death of such
Что
a
же
magnificent
происходит?
bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way,
Оно так не выглядело,
but this one
подождите.
stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
Ведро приглашает вас на большую выставку. Вы подошли к порогу настоящего знания. Как само ведро, человеческий разум зачастую всего лишь пустой сосуд. Но с помощью таких средств, как эта выставка, разум наполняется смыслом и познанием. Знание о ведре и его истории — единственная непреложная истина в переменчивом мире. Возьмете ли вы с собой во внешний мир то, что узнаете здесь? Откроете ли разум тому, что может показаться сложным или даже невыносимым? Поменяете ли свою жизнь и жизнь своих близких после этой выставки? Или отвернетесь и будете жить, как прежде, в невежестве и темноте? Однако...
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
25 ведер. Фото 25 ведер сразу. Большего количества не удавалось снять никому. Фотограф на несколько недель буквально потерял дар речи, насколько велика была его радость от снимка с таким количеством ведер. Мне кажется, тут больше. Там явно больше ведер. Адское ведро. Репродукция адского ведра, которое так ценилось в средние века, что целые народы шли за него на войну. Люди гибли сотнями тысяч, но один факт остался непреложным. Ни у кого нет власти над ведром. Что тебя демоническим делает? Ведро антистресс. Комментарии отсутствуют. Понятно. Пещерный рисунок. Мы знаем, что ведра появились раньше людей, но не знаем, насколько раньше. Рисунок изображает древнего человека, который научился пользоваться ведром. По всей вероятности, ведру к этому времени уже несколько тысяч лет. Обратите внимание, как ведро позволяет себя использовать, признав человечество достойным этого. Однако...
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
Висящее ведро. Экспонат символизирует неизбежную связь ведра и человечества. Мы можем думать, что отлично понимаем ведро, но всегда найдется что-то, чего мы еще не осознали. И это всегда к лучшему. Где? Меня так слепит, что я ни хрена не вижу. Где ваши... А, вон оно. Оба. Мое ведерко. Что мы можем сделать?
Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong.
Да идите вы!
Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader,
Как оно выживет?
as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Все? Хэппи-энд? Не, вот... ну оно само перезапускается, прекрасно. То есть музей мы тоже сделали. Что у нас дальше по программе? Давайте попробуем злосчастный телефон.
All of his co-workers were... Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office?
Что?
A good bucket. A strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him,
Потому что мы идем к телефону.
The employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there.
Поехали.
Go to the cargo lift. Good, said the bucket. Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Пойдем дальше.
In here,
said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Темную комнату? Это не темная комната. А, в эту темную. Ну тогда да.
Now pick up the phone,
said the bucket.
Pick up the phone, and it will take us back home, where we can go about life together.
Ну давай вот реально попробуем. Я почитал, что действительно можно не взять телефон. Что есть такая концовка. Давай попробуем не брать, но с ведром. Если с ведром получится не брать телефон, то мы вернемся сюда без ведра и посмотрим, что будет за концовка. Ну вот просто сидим, ждем. Вот. Давай наберемся терпения. Ты-то перемотать можешь. А мне надо ждать. Кстати говоря, в прошлой серии вот это вот было здесь. Если заметил на фоне футболки, ты красавчик. Это Ева делала с подругой тыковки, украшения. тому, что грядет. Грядет Хэллоуин. Вот. Поэтому вот гирлянду из вот таких тыковок сделать, повесить. Будет красивенько. Но что-то тут не проходит вот эта вот тишина. Мне просто не дают не брать телефон. Значит, такой концовки нет. Правильно я говорю? Правильно. Берем.
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
Хрена я так стою, думаю, кат-сцена. Давайте смотреть. А это не кат-сцена ни хрена, это такое освещение. Интересное. О, наклейки. Видно плохо. Но потом можно будет рассмотреть. Так, и чего? Что дальше? Привет, Стэнли, это я, ведро. Нажми Т, чтобы взять меня на работу. Давай.
The Stanley Parable reassurance bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
Нажмите L, чтобы взять меня домой.
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
Вот оно. Тут все засвеченное, хрен увидишь чего. Пойдем на работу.
Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do
Вы все врете, оно
anything else.
разговаривает. Пойдем.
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal.
Ну это концовка, где ведро заменяет рассказчика.
It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
Почему я в офисе ночью? Ты ведь веришь, что я существую, Стэнли? Нажми В, чтобы вернуться домой.
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another.
Нажми Z, чтобы снова и снова проживать этот день со мной.
Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
Нажми А, чтобы пойти домой на работу. Домой на работу, домой.
Oh no. I'm having feelings for the bucket. No. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation.
Че, мы пиздиться за ведро сейчас будем? Подожди, я нож возьму. Чайник, кружку хотя бы, не знаю, моющее средство в глаза прыснем. Там замороженный огурец, там, не знаю, пельменями кинем. Хоть что-то возьми. Не смей, блядь. Не смей тыкать в ведро.
Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
Все, погнали. Так, хорошо. Хорошо. Ответить на телефон — это интересная мысль была. С ведерком. Это я отметил. Дальше у нас...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a
Мы
memo.
падали вниз с ведром.
The embrace of an old friend, a
Я
weathered
имею в виду
companionship that
с...
stands the test of time.
Все так и должно быть? По-моему, нет. Что, блядь, происходит? Офис изменился.
Stanley clutched the bucket
Не
tightly to
вошел.
his chest, and this was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was
Это
simply
какой-то
the
день
place
сурка,
to be. And
если
here it
честно.
was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to
Не
go
вошел.
back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo.
Oh, well, look who's got cold feet. Well, from here, it looks like the only way forward is down, since the lift won't be coming back, but that's okay. You've got a bucket. Did you know that buckets are routinely used as cushioning devices? It's true. You can fall on a bucket from literally any height and survive.
Пиздобол! Не вздумай делать дома.
I'm serious, Stanley. Jump. Jump with the bucket. I promise you'll... Whoops. Looks like I was wrong.
Вот по этой
How
причине не
clumsy of
пробуй.
me.
Так, ну допустим, хорошо. Этот идиотизм мы тоже попробовали. Дальше. Кстати, вот...
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall. The bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time, perhaps, he would become both of those. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
Мы сейчас пойдем по концовке с вот этой вот петляющей линии. Посмотрим, что там будет. Потому что мне это интересно.
Good, Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what
Сейчас
the
он договорит,
fans
я
want. Let's
скажу.
do it.
Тут нарисовали, во-первых, вот этот папоротник, который меня просили запомнить, якобы он важный по сюжету. Ребенка, которого нужно было 4 часа не давать ему сгореть. Вот это вот манекен жены, которой у Стэнли никогда не было. комп, за которым он работал, точилка для карандашей и вот, мне кажется, такой самый главный такой... Хотя нет, вот эта вот фигня поглавнее, наверное, будет. Кто получал концовку 4 часа нажимать на кнопку. Там, кстати, на второй час появляется вторая, ее тоже надо нажимать, как выяснилось. В общем, типа самые все важные в жизни Стэнли собрались. И вот тут вот я должен был сидеть. Ну ладно, давайте посмотрим, что дальше.
Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
О!
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something
ведро.
up.
Правильно? Музыку верните! Сюки.
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
А если подождать? Ничего не будет?
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
Пукнул. Пукнул, и я ослеп.
The Bucket Destroyer, my prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were
А если скормить ветру? Все? Все. Хорошо. Не будем сейчас это слушать. В какой-нибудь следующей серии проверим. Давайте посмотрим на... выдергивание вилки с ведром.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed.
Офис изменился. Тут теперь двери другие вообще.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no. Never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left
Не
to go
пойду.
back to the meeting
Не
room.
хочу.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room.
Пойдем.
Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Yeah, good,
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something
Давай,
up
давай,
there I
давай.
need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Да,
Go
пойдем,
into this
пожалуйста.
dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone and it will take us back home where we can go about life together.
Whoa, hold on. Why did you
Потому
unplug
что-
the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders? Stanley, I was joking. Obviously, the bucket isn't talking to you and telling you to do things. Buckets can't talk.
It was a joke. Don't you get the joke? It's funny, Stanley. A talking bucket.
Can't you see? Oh, goodness. I must have really bungled up the delivery if you actually took me seriously. Where did I mess up the joke? Should I have paused for longer or spoken quicker? Comedic timing is so difficult. I wish I were better at it. But there isn't exactly an instructional video on comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait, yes, there is. It's sitting
Видео,
right here.
давайте.
Let's take a look.
What is comedic timing? What is comedic timing? How does it work? How long should it last? How can it be used to effectively silence your political enemies? And more importantly, can it be taught in its
Давайте
entirety
попробуем.
within 90 seconds? Thankfully, the answer to all of these questions is yes. Let's dive deeper. If you've ever told a joke or made someone laugh, in all likelihood, you did it while standing 50 to 80 centimeters from them in a room of no more than 76 degrees Fahrenheit, with one of your arms raised straight upward at a 15-degree angle from your body. These are the optimal conditions for good comedic timing. To begin the joke, start by stating and spelling your name. Next, provide a brief synopsis of the joke, including the specific times at which the recipient of the joke will laugh, and then spell out your name a second time. With these steps complete, it's time to begin the humor. Speak the entire joke in no more than 18 seconds and no less than 13 and a half, pausing only for bathroom breaks when necessary. When the joke has concluded, it is customary to inform your listener that the joke is over by declaring in your loudest possible voice, "I'm Dunny with the funny." Let's practice screaming, "I'm Dunny with the funny" now. Good. This saying is a perfect example of expectations management, which is the cornerstone of good comedy. Finally, it's time to hand out surveys. Collecting hard data from your audience on how rapt they were throughout the joke is the only way to grow or learn as a comedian. An effective survey should be no less than 10 pages long and should include the same question reprinted several times, just to ensure the survey taker is actually paying attention and not simply filling in answers at random. And that's all there is. With these strategies at your disposal, you'll have audiences doubled over in laughter and even tripled over in laughter in no time at all. Just remember to let them stop laughing at some point, you gut-busting little scamp. After all, we're each of us needed on the front lines of the war to fight the 12-legged invader who threaten our very existence, and to very likely die in a hailstorm of bullets and mandibles. All of us must be prepared to give our lives to this noble cause, just as our children must do after us, and their children after them. Godspeed, and may Earth reign
Не, на
supreme.
самом деле они научили, как Шутить не надо вначале,
Hey,
объяснив.
goodness, this video is a little outdated, isn't it? Well, no matter. I think the fundamentals of proper comedic
А потом
timing are
сделали
still as
неожиданный
relevant today
ход
as
с
they were back
какими-то
then.
жуками.
So, with that in mind, I believe the only way forward is for us to return to the 2 doors and walk through all of this again, so I can try telling my story with more appropriate comedic delivery. Come along, let's head
Давай.
back.
Пойдем.
I can feel it. This time, I'm really going to nail the delivery. You'll be in stitches. A talking bucket, you'll say? How ridiculous. How absurd. What a hilarious concept. The king of comedy. That's what you'll call me. Thank goodness we had the instructional video. Otherwise, who knows where we'd be right now. Well, I wouldn't be the king of comedy, that's for
Это
sure.
да.
The bucket spoke to Stanley.
The bucket spoke.
The bucket spoke. Oh, I'll figure it out on the fly. No need to overthink things.
Пам-пара-па-па-пара-па-па-па. А чё молчим-то? Чё молчим? Рассказал-то.
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of 2 open doors, they entered the door on the left. What? We're back at the phone already? No. What's going on? There were supposed to be several rooms leading up to this. There was supposed to be a build-up to this point, a dramatic display of remarkable comedic wit which culminates in this scene with the phone. But now the timing's completely off. The joke will never land. Well, not the way it was meant to. And it's all my fault. I must have forgotten that the phone room comes immediately after the 2 doors room. What an egregious mistake. I've made a fool of myself. I don't deserve the title of King of Comedy. I'm nothing. I'm not even the lowliest joke-telling whelp. I think I need to go back and rewatch that instructional
Можно
video
без
again.
меня?
Yes, surely that will help me improve my... Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of 2 open doors, they entered the door on the left. What? We're back at the phone already? No. Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of 2 open doors,
Давай сюда.
they entered the door on the left. No. You were supposed to go through the door on the right, leading back to the phone. Did you not even look at the instructional video? I think this is all covered very clearly. There's no way I can make the comedic timing work now. It's done. The joke is completely done and over. It's all your fault, Stanley. I'm going to be ridiculed in the community of other joke writers. I'm going to be shamed at every one of our meetings from now on. All because you couldn't watch a simple video and take a hint. Are you proud of yourself for bringing me down, Stanley? Are you proud?
Stanley, you love the bucket so much it's like you... it's as though all of your other most prized possessions pale in comparison. Yes. Well, let me try that again, Stanley. I heard that you are pale with shame over how unabashedly in love with a bucket you are. No? Still not? Is it the delivery? Pale with shame. Pale with shame? Pale... What's another word to describe a bucket? Stanley, this bucket is so metal. I think I saw it playing guitar. No. We're getting away from making fun of Stanley's obsession with the bucket, which was the whole point of this. I'm no good at these jokes. I need more instructional videos. That's exactly what it is. That's what will make me the king of comedy again. More instructional videos. Let's see.
Все? Ну, такое. Имеет место быть. Так. Дальше у нас что? Вот, кстати, мы со стола не прыгали с ведерком.
Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time.
Возьми.
It takes a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent. Stanley checked his ego and then proceeded on. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Абсолютно так, я вошел в левую дверь.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find it. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Пошли наверх, потом в кабинет начальника. Ввели 2845.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any.
После этого мы
But
пошли
Stanley
вот
guessed the
сюда,
correct
вот.
code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket
Ну,
knew
пусти.
all along? Was the bucket
Во.
guiding him? Yes. This is
Дальше на
certainly the most
лифте, на
logical
лифте вниз.
explanation.
Вниз на лифте мы поехали. Мы поехали на лифте вниз. Что там дальше надо? А,
Stanley and the
Спрыгнуть,
bucket
в
walked
принципе,
straight ahead
просто
through
по
the
прямой.
large door that read Mind Control Facility.
давай свет включим, чтобы хоть чуть-чуть ориентироваться. Во.
The lights
дай.
rose on an enormous room packed with
Всё.
television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? But just as Stanley was about to proceed further into the mind control facility, he tripped and fell over the railing
Да-да-да.
and into the dark void below. Thankfully, he fell directly onto the bucket, which safely cushioned his fall. Now, what to do next? Stanley
Давай
wondered.
не смягчай.
Stanley and the bucket could find no way out of this enormous pit, and so eventually they decided that the best thing to do would be to simply get comfortable down here. So they set up a little couch and relaxed. It really wasn't so bad down here, a bit cold
Давайте.
perhaps.
О, телек. О,
After some time had gone by, they installed a few shelves as well, and a sort of kitchenette that was useful for when the bucket was craving paninis. But it wasn't until the rugs and the standing lamps
Мне
came in
нравится.
that it really started to feel like a home. In fact, after some time, Stanley realized that it had been ages since he had even thought
да
of
кому он
mind
нужен? У
control
нас есть
facility.
телек, еда.
He'd never got
Книжки
to fully
и
explore
диван.
what's up there, never been able to unearth the many mysteries of the mind control facility. This lack of closure began to eat at him.
Да
Soon he
пофиг на
was
него,
dwelling
что ты
on his
привязался-то?
regrets, and the state of their home slowly decayed as Stanley became withdrawn and neglected the cleaning. It unsettled the bucket deeply. Stanley wasn't usually like this. The bucket tried to reach out to him again and again, but to no avail. All Stanley could think about, all he could talk about, was going back, doing it over again, staying on the path. It was a mistake to leave the path. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. I need to do what the narrator says. I need to see
Видели
the
мы
true
её?
ending. This made no sense at all to the bucket, which was simply trying to live its life down here as comfortably as possible. Yet Stanley was unconsolable. This isn't an ending. This is just a hole in the ground. The bucket sighed. True, it wasn't an ending. But it's where we happen to be. And maybe, possibly, if we accept the reality of things, maybe this will become an ending eventually. It's what the bucket was counting on. The two of them waited for a very long time.
Хорошо. Ну и на этом, наверное, закончим. Осталось не так много концовок. Есть еще, вот если вы заметили в предыдущем, эпилог. Там тоже какая-то концовка есть. Но мы на этом с вами заканчиваем. Ссылку на плейлист с прохождением игры я оставлю в описании под видео. Подписывайтесь на канал, тыкайте там чего-нибудь под видео, пишите комментарии. На все Все смотрю, на все стараюсь отвечать. Ну и до встречи в следующей серии. Всем удачи, всем пока.